Pubco Studios in Oklahoma City. This is the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. It's time for our weekly 5 in 5 segment, 5 topics, a minute each or so, one bell. Let's get right to it. We're going to talk about OU football and whether the Sooners will go BCS bowling. We'll talk about who's going to play in the national championship, but let's start with OSU football, Barry, and who's going to start at quarterback. Not who will start, but who should start in your mind.
I think Clint Shelf ought to start for a couple of reasons. One, if you just, the naked eye, who's played the best? It's not Wes Lunt, so it's either J.W. Walsh or Clint Shelf. I did the research in terms of productivity among the two. Shelf's been a little bit better in terms of getting points on the board. Plus, continuity, I think, starts to come into play. Cowboys have now switched quarterbacks 4 or 5 times out of necessity this year. I think it'd be a good thing for this offense to have the same guy again 2 straight weeks. Clint Shelf played very well against West Virginia. I think he's earned the right to keep going.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say Clint Shelf should be the guy here for the rest of the regular season, barring injury, of course. As we know at Oklahoma State, that's ended the runs of other guys to this point. But, you know, I don't think it's such a bad idea to go with Clint Shelf. I know that OSU has said in the past that a quarterback does not lose his starting position or anybody to injury. But you know what? Wes Lunt, giving him another off-season in the strength program, in the conditioning program, letting him get 100% healthy. You know, let the knee be completely healed. Let the concussion issues be completely in the rearview mirror. Let him get the idea of being injury-prone out of his mind and maybe do some things that will help that. I think starting Clint Shelf is not the worst idea in the world. I think it could be really good for the good for the Cowboys, and you know, might provide him wins the rest of the way. Not just like status quo, but actually winning ball games. I think that'd be something that would be positive for OSU. All right, let's go to OU football, Barry. Hey, are the Sooners going to make a BCS bowl?
I think the answer is yes. Now, I don't think it'll be easy. Oklahoma actually has 3 pretty tough games to finish out, and they got to win them all to make the Fiesta Bowl. But at West Virginia, home against OSU, at TCU. At West Virginia might be the easiest of those 3. The Mountaineers are sort of crumbling. I don't think Bedlam will be easy, but I think the Sooners at Owen Field will get it done. And then at TCU, that'll be the toughest game at all. The Frogs are tough at home. Gary Patterson's an excellent coach. But win those 3, and Oklahoma will be in the BCS, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, you got to win out, but I think last week, the way they've had to play against Baylor, or the way they said they had to play against Baylor to slow down Baylor's passing game and allowing the run game, it does raise some questions, because look at that OSU game. Look at Bedlam coming up. If they decide that they've got to slow down OSU's passing game, which is obviously a huge part of that offense, that's an air raid offense, and you say, we're going to basically let you run the ball. Look who you're letting run the ball. It's Joe Randall. It's Jeremy Smith. It's Desmond Rowland. It's a bunch of guys that can make you pay and might make you pay worse than Baylor did at the tune of 252 yards. So, yeah, if they win out, I think they're there because K-State's going to win. I think they're playing for a national championship. But this whole question of where OU is got tossed into a little bit of uncertainty with that Baylor performance. We'll see how they bounce back at West Virginia this week. All right, Barry, Thunder. Hey, who should be All-Stars this year? The ballot is out for the All-Star game already. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Kendrick Perkins, and Kevin Martin are all on the ballot. But so far, who's played to an All-Star level?
Well, Durant and Westbrook are automatics. I really think Serge Ibaka is knocking on the door. And, you know, last year we saw Harden was knocking on the door. Well, Ibaka has stepped into the mix, and Ibaka, his profile has really risen among NBA fans and NBA coaches as well. He's not going to get voted in as soon as the Congo has as many people as China does. Well, then you know, Ibaka will dominate the voting, but that's several years away. I think Serge has a chance. Now, the Western Conference is deep in talent. That's the problem. If he's in the East, he's on the team. In the West, it's going to be harder to make. But I think Serge at least has a chance.
Yeah, I think Serge is definitely a chance. And I don't think Kendrick Perkins is probably going to be an all-star. He does too many of the things that he does that the Thunder need him to do are off the stat sheet. You know, you're not going to have sexy enough stats with Kendrick Perkins to be an all-star. But I think both Serge and Kevin Martin could make a push kind of depending on how things go. I always think you need to be a starter to be an all-star, But if Kevin Martin hits some big shots and keeps playing the way he has, he might get some looks. But yeah, Serge Ibaka, you're seeing the offensive game on an uptick, Barry, and I think that's something that people were looking for. Could Serge take the next step offensively? Because we know defensively he's really good. Could he do it offensively? We're starting to see signs that that's coming along. If that continues to elevate, don't be surprised to see him in that All-Star game. All right, Barry, our fun question of the week. What is the best mascot in college sports? I'm asking this just for this reason. The picture on the screen right now, your buddy.
I actually was trying to come up with a curveball answer and throw you off and
pick
somebody besides the Mountaineer, but I can't come up with one.
You got
the Mountaineer at West Virginia is the best. I love live mascots. I like mounted mascots, so I like Tommy Trojan, and I like the Spirit Rider at OSU and the Masked Rider at Texas Tech, and I like Chief Osceola at Florida State. But this is a mascot that runs around and fires off a gun and does push-ups and smiles as wide as my hands and is just the best ambassador for the state of West Virginia since John Denver. So I love the Mountaineer. Best thing about the Big 12 ad in West Virginia has been the addition of the Mountaineer. I got to meet him in Dallas in July. Wonderful guy. Got to chat with him last week in Stillwater. He's promised me a tour of Morgantown this week. The Mountaineer is number one.
Oh, I just wanted you to say all that on video. That's the only reason I asked this question. I don't know who my favorite mascot is. You know what, though? I got to tell you, this is a moment of truth for me. Before I moved to Oklahoma, I actually was a little bit scared, sort of creeped out by Pistol Pete. Just the big head and the whole thing. Now that I've been around him, I'm fine with you, Pistol Pete, and I've seen you without your head on. I'm okay with you now. But it's a little creepy, the big head.
It can be a little scary to the youth.
I was youthful when I came here, not so much anymore. All right, last question. College football, Bear, we've asked it the last couple weeks. We'll ask it again because we had another mix-up at the top of the college football ranks. Who is going to play for the national championship? Our for sure Alabama, Gonzville. At least we think they are. All right, who's going to play for it?
Well, I think it's going to be Oregon and Kansas State, but either one could still lose. I think Kansas State will win at Baylor, but you never know with Texas. I mean, that's the craziest team in college football because the Longhorns are 8-2, and let me tell you something. They stink, but they win games. I don't know how they do it. They win games. You keep it close, Mac Brown wins. You got to give it up to him. They go to Manhattan in December. I think Kansas State will win, but the Horns will have a shot. Oregon's got 3 tough games. They host Stanford. They go to Oregon State. Then they have a Pac-12 title game against UCLA or USC, which will be overmatched, but it will have a puncher's chance. Sure. So Notre Dame's still in there. Notre Dame goes to USC. I think USC probably beats Notre Dame. So I mean, we could still be looking at an Alabama-Florida State game or something crazy.
No.
So you can't rule anything out, but Oregon, K-State, definitely in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that solidified last week. And I tell you what, Barry mentions Texas. There's obviously no Big 12 championship game, and you're playing, and K-State's last game is against a Texas team that's not the Texas teams of old. But if K-State does to Texas what I think they can do, which is really rout them, that still holds some merit, Barry. That's still a really nice final statement for the Wildcats. If the voters out there can see K-State, 45, Texas 20, or K-State 52, Texas 21, I mean, that holds some merit. And I think K-State's good enough to do that. If they do that, they're for sure in the national championship game. And I'd be excited for him, Barry. I would love.
I'd be fired up. Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Love to see K-State there. And what a matchup that would be, K-State versus Oregon. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.